going to call on the first presenter, and that would be the team with 16 Dunmore. Who is that team here already?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you want to present, if you need to share the screen, let us know. If you have an actual presentation, that your presentation slide deck that you're showing, let us know so that we can give you the ability to share the screen and show us.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcos. Is it possible to make Kyle Smith as a presenter?
Absolutely. Renee?
Beautiful. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you everyone for your time. We do have a good number of people here on behalf of the project. We actually have the owner of the project who's on the call. We have a very knowledgeable family friend who is has experience in the residential and real estate world, who's helping to guide her through the project. That's Orlando, who spoke up earlier to introduce himself. We have the project architect also on the line. And then my name is Kyle Smith. I am a real estate attorney. As a little bit of backstory about myself, just so that you know that I do appreciate this process. I lived in Jamaica Plain for 6 years and Rosendale for 2. I was on the neighborhood council and served as the co-chair for the zoning committee in part for a long period of time. So bi-monthly we were listening to meetings and presentations from owners, so I got to see this kind of at the ground roots, and from that really do appreciate the community outreach process, and know that from our perspective previously as being a member of the neighborhood council in Jamaica Plain, our job wasn't to impart our opinion for the community or over the community, but to ensure that at least the community had the ability to learn, to listen, to ask questions. And the byproduct of that was usually better projects. So all that being said, I'll kind of hop into where we are. In front of me, you're on the screen, I have our ISD rejection set. Why isn't my first page showing? And let me pull up the refusal letter and start. So just bear with me for a second.
And if you're
Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I said if you're able to just maximize your screen so that we can.
Yep.
We can read.
And I'm sorry, sir, you are a little bit muted, but if you can hear me correctly and clearly, just to kind of recap where we are procedurally for Boston in the city, a proponent would submit plans to ISD for analysis. The zoning code at a very general level kind of says, what you can use a property for. And if you're operating inside of that general, parameter, what you can then build on it. So there's both physical building parameters and limitations. There's also use limitations. So with that in hand and with plans, they then ultimately issue what's called a refusal letter. If you see that here, and everything looks the same as far as refusal letters coming from the city. And that would then delineate anything, any way in which the building that is proposed by use or building parameter does not abide by the limitations of the zoning code. So in the end, refusal letters look like this, and they kind of summarize the project and then ultimately what a person hopefully is seeking relief for from the Zoning Board of Appeal for the city of Boston. And the proponent, the appellant, is required to come through this community process, engage with local stakeholders, relevant neighborhood groups such as yourself, before ultimately presenting before the ZBA. And that is why ultimately we're here before you tonight. So the proposed project is, where did the slide deck go? Okay. So we have a pre-existing site plan here. Okay. So we are at 16 Dunmore, and I will have some visual pictures in a little bit to show everybody what the real, time pictures look like for parcels left and right and street. And I'll get there in a moment. But this is our pre-existing parcel. We have an existing structure in place, which, we can talk about. And I don't want to disparage the owner, as I've been told it needs a little bit of, TLC, and that's going to be part of the larger NEN project. but the proposal is to keep existing structure, but to effectively build an addition off the rear of the structure to put in 2 other dwelling units. So it's an extension of a pre-existing structure in the end to create 3 dwelling units. And we, as we will see from our refusal letter, we are in what's called a 3F 4000 subdistrict. So by use, we can build 3 residential units legally per the zoning code. So you'll notice here that a cited violation is not for the use of the property for the 3 family. Okay, so the end objective is to have 3 dwelling units on the parcel. This is existing, and our lot size is about 4,500 square feet, which in comparison to other lots is pretty consistent with the neighborhood. Okay. The proposed site plan would be this. So this is existing structure again. And the proposed addition would be off the rear of the structure, kind of following the existing plane of the building on the left, kind of following that down the length of the new building and kind of following that general angle that you see here. Okay, that by natural extension of the existing building creates a pinch point here of about 4.18 feet, which then increases as you go to the rear of the property. Okay, on the right side of the property, to give decent square footage for the 2 proposed units, we would then have a pinch point of about 5 feet on the back right portion, which then also this plane of the building being parallel to this one means that as we increase and go towards the front of the parcel, we increase our width off of the right side of the parcel. So here we're at about 6.5 feet. Okay, so this is the proposed new structure to the rear. Okay, and I will allow the architect to kind of go through the square footages, the breakdown of beds and proposed baths. My job is to kind of more hopefully lay out why we are presenting before you, the high-arching perspective of the project, and then run through our cited zoning violations and the hope for requested relief, and then potentially next steps. So we do have off-street parking. We are going to talk a little bit more about this, but our proposal in the end is for 5 off-street parking spaces, 3 of which will be kind of base level, ground level here. It should be noted that the project and the site kind of slope down slightly as you go from street level to rear. So parking is kind of ground level, but subsurface below the building structure, with the building then having livable stories above it. So 2 parking spaces off the side of the existing structure, with 3 then on kind of ground level below. So proposed will be 5 parking spaces for 3 combined total in the end dwelling units. The architect can go through this a little bit more. Let me just jump into the pictures for you so you can kind of see what we're looking at as far as neighboring structure. Okay. I would say maybe uniquely, secondary structures on parcels on one parcel is relatively unique throughout the city. Living in Jamaica Plain, we had a lot of pork chop lots and maybe deep lots where you might have, a building behind a building on one lot, but that is kind of unique in the fabric of the city as a whole. But in this case, atypically, both parcel to the left and parcel to the right have secondary freestanding dwelling structures on them. So we are not proposing a freestanding structure, we're proposing an extension of the existing, but our fabric of the community and of our street is that we do have at 1214 Dunmore, we have a main structure with a rear structure freestanding building, as you see here. Okay, so this being our immediate abutter. We also have, this is kind of a high arching top down view. This is 16, okay. And then additionally, to our right, we also have a secondary structure here to the main structure. So both, maybe uniquely left and right, we do have parcels with multiple dwelling structures on them. This being the proposed parcel right here, existing drive. Okay. Let's see what other pictures we have. Okay. See what else? This is looking to the rear of the property. Again, it slopes down slightly from front to rear. And this kind of gives you a perspective of our parcels both to our left and to our right. We are waiting on an updated site plan to show our total number of parking spaces. It was previously 3. We do have a proposal to increase that to 5. Unfortunately, the surveyor that we were working with in the interim has passed away. So we're securing, and we have secured a new site surveyor to update our site plan to show the 5 parking spaces. But we don't have that currently to present to you now, but the intent is to proceed with this orientation for parking. So this is a rough mock-up of 2 parking spaces alongside the structure, and then 3 basically below ground level, what will be the proposed additional rear structure to the rear of the existing structure here. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total parking spaces. Hopping back into the refusal letter, we've talked about our side yard setbacks. There are certain required setbacks by zoning code. Effectively, we have a side yard insufficiency. We are extending the existing building to the left, which is pre-existing and non-conforming. So they call that an extension of a non-conforming use. The zoning code, generally speaking, says if you want to build a certain number of lots, you may have to have a certain amount of square footage per lot to do so. So our aggregate square footage of our lot is slightly less than what is actually required by code. We have about 4,500 square feet of lot space. What is required by code is 6,000 square feet. Floor area ratio is basically a measure of livable square footage over lot size. So the proposed 3 dwelling structures or 3 dwelling units would exceed that. So the hope is to obtain relief to then build the structure. We need a FAR variance. And then, effectively we have off-street and loading park violations that's not by number of spaces, but just by effectively maneuverability. And then we have, effectively setbacks. There is a proposal for decking, roof decks on top of the new structure to provide some exterior outdoor space for those dwelling units. There is a limitation as to the total percentage of the roof size that can be allocated for that. We're hoping to exceed it to provide some better exterior space for our prospective, the owners of the dwelling units or the occupants. So with all that being said, I'm happy to turn it over to the architect to kind of show you the layouts, the proposed beds, baths, square footages, and answer those questions. I would say if there's any questions on what I've discussed so far, please let me know. I'm happy to answer those. And if not, we can then turn it over to the architect to introduce himself and kind of go through the merits of the project. That's okay.
The questions to the end.
Oh, maybe we should put him back in his crate then.
Yes, hello?
I'm just gonna let it back down.
And would you be able to then give Alfonso shareable access for his screen too?
So who need
Alfonso?
Alfonso.
Okay, let me here. Okay. So Kyle, I think you need to stop sharing, and then Alonso will be able to.
Yes, I think I'm good, Marcos. I think I have it.
All right.
Let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, now we can.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. So I'll walk through. Again, my name is Alfonso Sierra. I'm an architect. And let me walk you through the design. As Kyle mentioned and he explained already, we know the location of the building. This is the
Alfonso, we're seeing your calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're seeing my calendar. Okay. How about now?
There you go.
Okay, perfect. All right. So basically,
Busy man.
yes, the existing building is a single family, and as Kyle explained, we're adding to the back 2 units, and we're proposing the 3 parking spaces underneath the new structure and 2 parking spacings adjacent to the existing single family and adjacent to the ramp, in essence, that's going down underneath the existing structure, or the proposed structure, I should say. So here, Here's the existing, whatever's in gray in this slide is the existing building. So this would be unit 1. And then here would be the additional parking on the right side. And then we're going to have in between the two structures, we're going to have the utility space. So that can be shared and it's more efficient distribution of systems. And then below the proposed structure, we'll have 3 parking spaces. This needs to be updated, but there's going to be 3 parking spaces. I can show you the latest revision in another slide with the access stairs. And these central stairs are enclosed, which access to the units. And there's 2 flanking stairs that are accessing the a deck above. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions at any time. I'll just breeze through these slides now. Okay, so here's the first floor, which in essence is street front on Dunmore. So this gray part is the existing single family, which will remain as unit 1. And then again, we'll have the addition on the back. So this is the first unit, which is unit 2, which consists of 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bath. And then we're trying to provide as much open space as possible. And in front of the unit 2, we have an open deck that is connected by 2 means of egress. So that open deck is in essence over the access to the parking below. Okay, so that's the summary for unit 2. Then unit 3 is a little bit larger. Again, we'll have some utility in between the existing and the proposed. We'll have the enclosed stair in between the existing and the proposed, and an outside deck for the existing structure that's in the front. And this unit is a bit larger, and I can get into the square footage after I finish this. So unit 3 is on the first level, which is in essence the second floor. We have 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, dining, living, kitchen, and then also, again, to provide outside space, we have a deck in the front, which is in essence above the lower deck and above the parking or the parking access. Then moving on to the next level, we'll have the upper level of unit 3, which is larger bedroom suite with bathroom and 2 bathrooms up on that level, with each one will have a bathroom. And then above that level, we'll have a roof deck, which we're proposing to be accessed with a roof hatch. And that's the basic layout. I can go back. Let me show you some elevation views. These are basically the southern elevation here. This shows the stair tower. It's in essence a cut through the existing. This is roughly where the existing building is, and then this is all the proposed. So we're proposing a stair that will be enclosed, that it's in between the 2 structures, the roof deck, larger windows, casement type windows with transom, and then the other elevation is 3-level elevation with parking, open parking underneath, the roof deck above. And then the last elevation is from the right side of the building. You'll see right here the proposed the existing structures in gray. Then we have the stair tower that's in between with the deck and utilities behind, and the proposed 2 units in the back. I'll move on to the next slide, which is another elevation. This is from the, here's the existing structure, and then we have the proposed structure here.
And so importantly, Alfonso, if you hold that screen, the hope was to not make the structure, the flat pitched roof, exceed what was, currently in place by the pre-existing structure. So with the fencing and around the upper roof deck, that does exceed it a little bit, but that's kind of visibly see-through. So the hope was to maintain existing kind of continuity of height of buildings from existing structure to the rear. Just wanted to point that out from the side perspective there.
Thank you, Kyle. So moving on, these are some perspective views. This is right from the left side of the street coming onto this is a schematic layout of the adjacent neighbor on the left side. If you're looking at the building from the front, this is the existing residence, single family. So you're driving from the left side and now you're on the right side here. So you would see, like Hal was mentioning, the height is the same as what we have now. The structures that are existing are similar in massing. And then we have the unit in the back with the earth that's sloping down towards the back. And then you can access the parking below, and you have parking adjacent to the existing structure also. This is a view from the back, from, let's say, a sort of a bird's, not necessarily a bird's view, but sort of up in the air from the back. And then this is another one from the right side. And I believe that's it. I can go back to square footage. Let me see, I think I skipped over that one. Yes, so here's a more diagrammatic idea of what the square footages are. Utility in between, 152 square feet. That would be on the basement level or on the parking level of the new structure. Then moving on to the first floor, the unit 1 would be 742 approximately. Then we have a little open area for 78 square feet, utility 61. The unit overall, it's approximately 1,161, open area of 328 square feet. And then second floor, the unit 1, it's approximately about the same, 736 as the lower level. Then we have utility 62, open 79. And then unit 3 would be 1,241 on this level with an open area of 232. And then the upper level is 1,122. So that's basically my presentation. Any questions, let me know, and I can pass it over to Angela. If Marcos, you can let Angela as the property owner, if you can let her be the presenter, she would like to speak.
Sure. So we're at the 20-minute, 21, but go ahead, Angela, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Hey, good evening. My name is Angela DeCanto. I've been a Boston resident for 59 years and in our current home at 16 Dunmore Street for 55 years. I didn't know it was that long. So currently, basically, I'm looking to convert a 1-family into a 3-family. I like where I live. I like Roxbury. Pardon? Okay. So I'm currently the caregiver for my mother who's 99, and I'd like to continue to stay in Roxbury. And by converting it to a 3-family unit, I would like to use the rental income to support the increased housing cost of the proposal. That's basically it.
Thank you, Ms. Angela. So we're going to open it up for folks. If you could please raise your hand if you have a question for the presenters. Either your physical hand or your electronic hand. I don't see any hands being raised. Oh, Jose, please. You're muted, Jose.
Yeah, I'm glad that the extension is in the back. because that way it doesn't change the street is narrow, but it's beautiful. So the houses that are there, your house and the other ones are beautiful next to the church. Don't want to change that structure, but I wonder if you have talked to residents there, Angela?
Regarding the proposal,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, we did have I believe we called it an abutters meeting. There's a lot of concern that the residents brought up regarding the parking, and we did indicate that the parking would be in the back. It seemed to be an issue for people, even though we told them the parking's going to be in the back, and they're like, people are not going to park there. So here I say, we agree to disagree, but that's why we've developed the parking in the back, not to affect the off-street parking, because it is a concern at times, even for me to get out of my driveway currently.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, thank-
And also, Jose, since that original meeting to today, the proposal has increased the amount of parking spaces by 2, which is what we were looking to show as an update on our site plan, which we are working on. Unfortunately, the surveyor, smaller company, the gentleman did pass away, so we're working on that. But that was a change to hopefully, appease concerns voiced by neighbors.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you're not changing the structure of your beautiful home.
No. We like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question. So I'm glad that there was an abutters meeting. I was curious about sort of the immediate abutters that sort of face your decks. Whether it's right up to the property line, it seems. And is there a yard next to on the other abutters property? Because I saw
So
a tree. I saw a
in the
tree.
back,
Uh-huh.
in the back of the unit, there's my next door neighbor at 14 Dunmore Street that has a patio with
Okay.
trees covering her patio that overlooks into my yard.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And the question about, so these so there's 2 additional units that are being built, or there's 3 additional units that are being built. I was a little
Just 2.
confused.
Two additional.
We're extending the 1 family into a 3 family. Yes,
Mm.
converting it to a 3 family.
Okay. So these are going to be rentals, right? You live in the front, obviously.
Yes,
And the other 2 will be rentals. Okay.
right. Correct.
And Marcos, it's a little confusing, but the city will have a confirmed occupancy card for the building, and sometimes given ages of buildings, they don't exist. So in this case, they want to confirm it as being a single family, create that confirmed occupancy, as opposed to having nothing. So it's 1 unit existing in front. Proposal will be to add 2 in the rear for a total of 3.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Great. Any other questions that people may? I'm curious. I'm also just curious about because I know that in other places they can be controversial. The rooftop deck. Just curious. Is it just to admire the view, or for the late parties?
I hope not to be any late parties. I'm a quiet unit, trust me. You don't even know I'm here.
Let me interject a little bit here.
Sure.
I'm
Then.
listening to everybody.
Sure.
My name's Orlando. I'm Angela's good friend. I'm a former CDC employee with 2 Boston CDCs. And that roof deck is a reflection of the neighbor's property who has a roof deck.
Hmm.
And that neighboring property actually was a motivation for my conceptual design to this property. And I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to present this to you. And I would be very appreciative for your support, so much so that I'll be down to DSNI volunteering. I used to be on the board of JPNDC, worked at 2 CDCs, know light tech and home backwards. So I would share that knowledge with you gratefully.
Thank you, Mr. Alandi. Great. So your ask of DSNI and the Sustainable Development Committee?
So I guess our ultimate ask is, you know, and I know you can frame this either way. We would love, you know, verbal support. Even better than verbal support would be something in writing. Even better than all of that would be to, you know, present and show up before the ZBA to, you know, visualize that. But at a minimum, we'd hope for, you know, a letter of support or a letter of non-opposition, depending upon how you frame it.
Do you guys already have a ZBA date?
Yes, so I would say I got looped in a little later in the game, but you know, atypically before the community process had run fully, they were provided with a ZBA hearing date, which ultimately was deferred for the sake of being able to complete this process. So we have a hearing date on April the 11th. So I'm not sure procedurally for DNSNI, I know you have to, you know, kind of reconvene behind the scenes when we're not listening and reach a formal determination. But is it possible to, depending upon your determination, have, you know, written communication from you before the 11th of April? Is that possible?
The staff can speak to that, but I know that depending on our committee recommendation or decision, it also goes to the DSNI board. So for a formal vote, right? And which is the second Wednesdays of the month. But I think Renee would follow up with you by email on the status of that.
Yeah, the second Wednesday of April will be on the 12th, a day after the hearing. I don't know if you are allowed to, if, you know, like the committee decides to write a letter, it has to be voted and discussed by the entire DSNI board, and that will be the 12th. I don't know if you are allowed to submit any material after the 11th. If that's the case, we can be in contact and give you all the details about when we can have like a letter, if that's the case, right? Like if you get approved by the DSNI board.
Sure. I would say from my time on the neighborhood council in Jamaica Plain, there was a, you know, executive committee that could make actions maybe more quickly if it need be. If at least the recommendation of this committee of the DSNI is able to offer email or anything else kind of as to which way it's leaning, that would still be helpful of maybe what would be, you know, forthcoming from the formal board. And then we can certainly follow up with, you know, ZBA council and representatives with your formal letter after the fact, but some indication as to how you're leaning in advance of the meeting would be very appreciative.
Yeah, as soon as, you know, like the meeting ends and the discussion is done, I can let you know what was the recommendation from the Sustainable Development Committee. Usually that recommendation goes to the executive committee of DSNI board. They only review recommendation. They're usually don't vote on those proposal. So that committee refer the recommendation to the full board, which is April 12th.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys.
Just so I'm clear. So even though we're meeting on the 11th with the ZBA, you're saying to us, that you're not going to be able to respond until the day after? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, that's correct. That
okay. Let me interject a little.
Sure.
I'm very familiar with the CDC world, okay? And I know one day wouldn't be a determining factor in expediting an opportunity. Now, is there a plausible way that I can communicate with your ED to expedite this a day sooner so that either you're gonna support the project? If you are, then I would appreciate having that notification prior to my ZBA meeting the day before. So basically, all I'm asking is for one day.
We
You think that's
hear you, Mr. Orlando.
You think that's plausible?
We hear you, and I think that Renee just mentioned that after the meeting, we would let your team know generally what the stand is. You know, we do ask that folks respect our organizational processes on that. You know, well, and also we're not a CDC, so you will know where we stand way before you get to the ZBA, and
Beautiful.
most
That's all I need to know.
most likely, you know, our elected officials will also know. So, yeah.
Beautiful, lovely gentlemen.
Awesome.
Marvelous.
Thank you all for your time. We very much appreciate it. We look forward to hearing back from you and seeing how things stand. And I guess Renee will try to keep you updated with our liaison from ONS just to make sure, you know, messages can be communicated clearly.
Definitely. Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck, Miss Angela.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.